Somebody used a big word for this, caloricity. Only a scientist can understand this. Caloricity. Yeah, caloricity. Anyway, I think that's too big of a word. Sometimes the word's so specific, we have a problem with it. So take it as, I think heat is a lot bigger. Heat, okay? And this is understood as decay. It's very important, decay. From the moment we are born, we start decay. The 5 elements starts working. Right now, we are decaying. Of course, for the first 40, 50 years, we say growth. Got very nice names for it. But after 50 years, we are growing old, decay. Actually, the moment you're born, you're growing old. We are decaying all the time. We've got different words for all these stages. Just like fruits, we go through stages of decay. At certain time, there's a window when we can eat this fruit and benefit from it. Too early, you get sick. Too late, also you get sick. Too late, you don't. Too early, sticky and yucky. Right? So this is the decay, 5 element. You breathe in oxygen. Oxidation is another example of decay. Simple word for oxidation? Rusting. the action of fire. Okay? So the Buddha was aware of all this through his meditation. So fire element. And then the last one is wind element. Wind element is very easy. You breathe in, you breathe out. The gas in your body, in your stomach. Now what's interesting is in the Buddhist text, the wind element is also includes peristalsis. Peristalsis is the muscle action of your alimentary canal or of the various what we call round muscles in your body. Okay? For example, when you swallow food, you start pushing it out, these ring muscles. Okay? Movement, that is regarded as wind element. And of course, you've got burping, you've got flatulence, gas, all these also wind element. Wind element is movement, motion. Right? Motion, that's the key. Movement, motion. So those are explanation of the 4 elements. Okay? They're all here in the book in case you miss them. Now what's interesting about this 4 elements is we can also see all the 4 elements in the concept of an atom. Page 30. This is the Rutherford atom. They've got different ideas of atom vector. This is the, I think, photonic idea, isn't it? Where it's taken as a nucleus and so on. Then you've got the wave theory of Niels Bohr. So, how do the 4 elements fit into the electronic, into the atom model? You can see the explanation on page 31 at the top. The earth element are the massive nucleus and electrons. Okay? That is the earth element aspect. And then the water element in the electrical charges, nuclear force, the orbital energy, the binding energy that holds the atom together. Okay, that's the water element. So water is not just H2O, it's like holding together, force that holds something together. Fire element is of course the atom's nuclear energy and atomic decay. And then the wind element is ceaseless movement, ceaseless motion of atomic and subatomic particles. So right down to the basic material building block of life, you see the 4 elements. Okay? And you can also talk about the 4 elements in terms of health and medicine. Right? For example, too much earth element, you're overweight. Too much water element, maybe elephantiasis or whatever, too much water. Right? And then too much fire, okay, it's fever. Too much wind, Hong Sang or whatever. Right? So these are the 4 elements. This is how ancient medicine in India started, that so-called Ayurvedic medicine. It started with the monks, with the Buddha. Because you look at this forest monk living alone in the forest, they fall sick. They don't have handphones, say, hey, please fetch me at swing number 4 in this forest. You can't. They're all by themselves. They will just die. Nobody will know. So they have to learn some basic medical stuff and health. There's a whole chapter in the Vinaya called Vesaja Khandha, the chapter of medicines, where there's a list of basic medicine. For example, the Buddha even tells us you should eat watery porridge. Watery porridge is very good for your health, very good for the stomach. Not just ordinary porridge, watery porridge. Even the water is very good to drink for your stomach. And then there is the marrow, very bitter. So these fruits, very natural kind of medicines. And the monks are advised to use stale cow's urine, fermented urine. It's not the urine. So I can imagine, it's really funny, this monk waiting the cow in the pot to collect urine. He puts it in the pot, covers it up, and then buries it in the ground. Okay? And leaves it there maybe for a couple of weeks to let it ferment. So I suppose they're using the ammonia for this. So some years ago, we had something very strange in the newspaper. The Prime Minister of India, Mohanji Desai, drinking urine. People thought he was crazy. Actually, referring to this. Yeah, the Buddha speaking of this fermented urine. Okay? So the monks use this for like a panacea cure. So what I'm saying is that ancient early Buddhists, they were well aware of medicine and health. And this became the foundation of Ayurvedic medicine. But there's a lot of politics here. So there's the Brahmins throughout the Buddhist names, they started putting in the names of their Hindu gods and ancient saints. But now, of course, history will show that the roots of Indian medicine go back to the Buddha anyway. So, there you are. You see all these elements, how broad their meaning is, from personal to social, medical, and so on. So these teachings are really wonderful. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is something called grammar of spirituality. We got to understand the nature of words when we talk such things. Page 32, there's a summary here. All of you here have got good education, can understand English well enough. So this is where we can go a little deeper into the nature of language, so that we don't get tricked by words. Some people believe, okay, just recite certain names, certain mantra, you are saved. This is the Buddhism of belief. But if you understand the nature of the words, it still helps you. I also use mantras. For example, before I sleep, I'll just lie down on my bed. Then I will say, may all beings be happy, may my children be happy, may Ratna be happy, may my cats, my 2 cats be happy. And then after I say, Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, and I just fall asleep. And I get up in the middle of the night, very dark, and you don't feel your mind is something happy, you can be very depressed. So immediately it stayed in my head place, Namo Tassa Bhagavato, and I fall asleep. So it's a mantra, but this is where it really helps because you understand why, and you do it in a proper way. So let's quickly look at this nature of this grammar of spirituality. Now these are the 3 important actions that grammar tries to depict in language: to do, to have, and to be. Right? These are the things you learn in grammar. Basic grammar: verbs to be, verbs to have, verbs to do. 3 kinds of verbs, right? So I was reflecting, I said, language has got very close affinity with Buddhist teachings. So how do we fit this in the 3 trainings? So this is one way. There might be some other philosopher Buddhists who may come up with something else. On the first level of Buddhist training is called the moral virtue training, where you give the precepts to tame our body and speech. So this is called the doing aspect. Why? Because precepts, you do things, right? We break precepts, so it's action of body and speech. So you have to be careful with the doing aspect. Okay? It's so clear, obvious, right? Now the second part is the having aspect. Now this word have is just a concept, For example, I say I have money. It's just a concept. And suddenly, little brother start again and the money is gone. You have no money. You didn't do anything. The money is gone. It's just a concept. So it's got to do with thought. Right? So in our minds, we create joy. So you have joy. But because this joy is so real, we normally say, I don't say I have joy. I say I am joyful, I am happy. So when you understand that, then you reach a level of being. You are the happiness. Now in this diagram, I put that the mind. Okay, you can put bracket stillness here. Okay? Because when the mind is still, it is calm, it becomes clear. So those who are not wise, they think of having as appropriating things outside. Right? So if I can take home this table, it's mine, I have this table. But the table is not really a thing. The table is something that you use to write on. You know, the monks I live with in Thailand, we all share the same room, and sometimes we don't have enough tables, and then you find these navvies who just sit on the wonderful smooth floor, and you just write and study there. So that's their table. So in other words, the table is a concept, it's not furniture, that's how we're looking at it. So this kind of understanding helps us to see life more broadly and become more inventive, innovative. We're not restricted by things. We don't thingify things, so to speak. So you find you're more inventive, you're more creative. And so Buddhism has to do with creativity also, truth and beauty. And if you're able to build this up gradually, come to liberation. Right? To free your mind from being controlled by the world, being controlled by form, for example. So it's a beautiful teaching in that sense. This is the grammar of spirituality. Any questions? Okay, now we come to deeper Dhamma. We got 4 elements, sometimes 5 elements, sometimes 6 elements. This is where I can draw a very simple diagram, very interesting diagram. Maybe we have seen this diagram. It's a very famous diagram. Earth is represented by a cube. Then we have water represented by a globule. Then fire by a cone. And wind by a crescent or a meniscus. Okay. So these are the 4 elements. Okay. And this is consciousness. Okay. So here you have 4 elements, and then if you say 5 elements is found in the Maharahula Sutta. And what is the 5th element there? Anyone remember? Space. The 5th element is space. Okay. So earth, water, fire, wind, space. And in terms of 6 elements, which is not so common, but here you see Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, 6 elements are mentioned. Very rare. Okay. The 6th element is consciousness. So notice this word element is simply used like we use in English thing, right? So look at page 33. This is an excerpt from the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, analysis of the elements. And 140, section 14 to 19. How bhikshu does one not neglect wisdom? So the Buddha is saying, you cultivate wisdom when you reflect on the elements, whether it is 4, 5, 6 elements. These are the elements. Or there are these elements, the earth element, the water element, fire element, wind element, space element, consciousness element. So these are meant for reflection. This is the teaching that the Buddha gives to Bhikkhu Sati. Bhikkhu Sati was the king from northwest India. He doesn't know it's the Buddha teaching him. So halfway through this teaching, he realized, oh dear, this is the Buddha himself. I can't do anything about that, and Buddha still teaching. So you can buy it. I quickly apologize to the Buddha. I should have known You are my teacher. So this is where the Buddha did not introduce himself. The Buddha gave the teaching, and the student recognizes the teacher by the teaching. Amazing. This is the wonderful thing about this sutta. The Buddha didn't come along and say, here's my business card, Buddha, PhD, and I'm going to teach you. He just said, okay, fine. He didn't introduce himself. Just teach the Dharma, because by the Dharma we know the Buddha. Here, Fukusaki once recognized the Buddha. And the great thing is, he as a true disciple did not interrupt. He did not cut off the Buddha and say, oh, now I know you're the Buddha. No, he listened. There was another person, but he is not awakened yet. He came to the Buddha. The Buddha was talking about different kinds of pleasure. The Buddha he says, well, you have, physical pleasure, and this is the highest in this world. And then once this man comes in and says, wow, I'm so happy you agree with me, and there goes the teaching of cut off. The Buddha was just beginning to talk about the first kind of karma. And he's going to talk about other, the dangers of sense desire and so on, like the cut off. So he didn't complete the teaching. And you won't notice this unless you regularly study the sutta and you begin to understand the nature of the sutta. Because the suttas are stories, So this is where if you study literature, it's really great help. In literature, you begin to see the nuances. Who said this? What's the background? Who's the narrator? What is meant by this? What is not said here? And what does it all mean? So if you study literature, you look at this and say, oh, here, actually, it's not that the Buddha only spoke one line. This man cut the Buddha off. So the Buddha was going to talk about this whole series of ideas about why sensual pleasures are dangerous, why people like them, and then what you should do about them, how to get out of this rut of being caught up with sensual pleasures. But this man cut the Buddha. This is in one of the suttas, which is in the volume 39, volume 40, which is one of the books we'll be doing very soon. So, coming back to the sutta. So here you have the syllabus, and then you look, the Buddha will explain each of these. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then bottom you see 1 earth element, and the explanation goes right up to page 36. This is what we look at, this is very important. This is where the Buddha defines these elements. What bhikshus is the earth element or hardness. Whatever that is solid, solidified or rigid, clung to internally and individually, belonging to oneself, namely head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. Okay, this is the first set. This is the main one you should remember. You can't remember, the rest is okay. Head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. This is the first meditation that the monks are taught when they become monks. When I first became a monk, when I became a monk the second time in Thailand, once the ceremony the main ceremony is over, then comes what's called the anusamana. It is the instruction part which closes the whole ceremony. I have to stand outside the entrance, the main entrance of the vihara, the main hall, and then the second teacher, second audience teacher will stand inside the threshold. I stand outside the threshold, and then he will say, okay, listen to me, repeat after me, Kesa, Loma, Daka, Danta, Pacho. Okay? And then forward backwards, so I have to memorize that. That's the first meditation we do as a monk. Head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. So if you want to practice this is overcoming lust and negative thoughts. Head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. So you're going to be reciting for 1 week to memorize this. And after you reverse it, skin, teeth, nails, body hair, head hair. And then back and forth. Right? So this is where we learn something back to front. So this is our earth element in the body. Head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. These are the material aspect. This is the, look at the last item, skin, right? So this is called the skin Panca-k. Panca-k means set of 5, or skin 5. The Indians, they look at the last item and they name the list by the last item. The skin 5 or skin Panca-k 5. Okay? So if the teacher tells you, say, what is skin Panca-k? Everybody has this skin. Right?